What if I told you that being successful does not mean that you are secure? Being intelligent does not mean that you are intellectually aligned, and being high functioning and successful does not protect you from choosing the wrong person. Because one of the most confusing experiences for a lot of women who are accomplished, responsible, respected, and doing well in so many areas of life is this: they can run a team, they can build a career, they can manage a household, they can be the friend that everyone leans on, they can pray, they can lead, they can grind, they can get it done. But in romantic relationships, they find themselves drawn to emotionally unavailable people, stuck in patterns where they are overgiving, overfunctioning, over explaining, overextending, and then wondering why it doesn't feel safe, secure, or consistent. So if you've ever looked at your life and thought, "I have it all together everywhere else," but feel emotionally confused in love, this episode is for you. Good morning and welcome to Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. I'm Dr. J. Nicole, therapist, educator, and the reminder that healing does not require you to shrink. It requires you to be honest. And today we are talking about why high functioning women still end up in emotionally unavailable relationships. What's really happening underneath the pattern and what you can start doing differently, not just in your dating life, and how you choose your environments overall. Before we get into it, if you're someone who's committed to emotional growth, healthy relationships, evolving from the inside out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we're building something here. Now, let's get into it. The myth of the strong woman and the cost of high functioning. So, we're going to start here. There is this cultural myth that if you're a strong woman, you don't struggle with certain things. The myth says if you're educated, then you should know better. If you're accomplished, you should choose better. And if you're confident, you shouldn't tolerate nonsense. And if you're a leader, you shouldn't end up hurt. And the myth creates so much shame. And because now you're not just dealing with the pain of the relationship, you're dealing with the embarrassment of it. And a lot of high functioning women are carrying this silent pressure to try to make it make sense. And you might be asking yourself things like, how can I be this smart and still be in this? How can I be this mature and still be attached to someone who keeps disappearing, someone who is inconsistent? How can I be this spiritually grounded and still be struggling to detach? Here's the truth about it: high functioning is not the same as healed. And high functioning means you learn how to survive and succeed. There is a difference. And healed means you learn how to be safe and secure. High functioning means you can perform under pressure. Healed means you don't need pressure to feel alive. And the distinction matters because many high functioning women have built entire identities around capability, around being reliable, around being the one who holds it down. And when you're used to being the one who holds it down, it can feel normal to end up in relationships where you're the one doing the emotional holding too. You're holding the communication, you're holding the emotional labor, you're holding the clarity, you're holding the consistency, you're holding the vision. And you don't always realize that you're doing it because you've been doing this your whole life. For some women, this pattern started in childhood. You matured early because you had to. You became responsible early because you had to. You became emotionally aware early because you had to. You became the peacemaker early, again, because you had to. And you became the caretaker early because you had to. So now an emotional and unavailable partner doesn't feel like a red flag. It feels like a familiar role. It feels like, okay, I know what to do here. Like I've been here before. And that's one of the most important things I want you to understand today. You can be drawn to what you're trained to manage, not what you're meant to receive. And I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. And just in case you didn't get it, you can be drawn to what you're trained to manage, not what you're meant to receive. Now, let's talk about attachment for a second. Attachment theory helps explain how we connect, how we bond, how we respond to closeness, and how we respond to distance. Most people have heard of anxious attachment and avoidant attachment, but I want to make it plain and practical. Anxious attachment also sounds like I need reassurance. I overthink everything. I feel safe when you're close. When you pull away, I spiral. I don't want to be too much, but I also don't want to be abandoned. Attachment, for a more of avoidant sense, it sounds more like I value my independence. I don't like feeling needed. I shut down when things get emotional. I feel suffocated when people want closeness. I can't do it all. Now, secure attachment, on the other hand, sounds like I can be close and still be myself. I can communicate needs without fear. I trust consistency. I don't have to chase or test love. Now, here's the part that people miss. A high functioning woman can look secure on the outside and still have an anxious or even an avoidant attachment response in romantic relationships because attachment doesn't care about your resume. It doesn't care about your degrees. It does not care about how many people respect you at work. Attachment activates in intimate spaces. It activates where you are emotionally vulnerable. It activates when you want to be chosen. It activates when you risk rejection. So you can be confident in your career and still become emotionally dysregulated when your partner is inconsistent. And you can start doing what high functioning women often do when they feel anxious. They start over functioning. They start working for love. They start trying to earn consistency. And when you start trying to prove your worth, and you start being the one who communicates, clarifies, check in, that plans, fixes, smooths, explains, holds space, all the things, while the other person stays ambiguous. And ambiguity can be addictive for anxious attachment styles because anxious attachment doesn't just crave love, it craves relief. And relief from uncertainty, from silence, relief from distance. The high functioning woman becomes emotionally employed in the relationship. She's doing a job and she's calling it love. And she gets stuck in this loop of creating the need for relief because this is where she knows how to function. Now, let's go a little bit deeper here. Because beyond attachment styles, your nervous system is the part of you that learns what normal feels like. And if your nervous system learned that love comes with unpredictability, tension, criticism, emotional absence, or instability, then peace can become unfamiliar. And what's unfamiliar can feel unsafe, even when it's healthy. This is why some women get into stable relationships and start thinking something's missing. But what they're actually experiencing is withdrawal because chaos produces adrenaline. Unpredictability produces dopamine spikes. And when you've been trained for survival, your body can confuse intensity with intimacy. Intensity is not intimacy. Chemistry is not character, and a spark is not always a sign. Sometimes it's a signal. And sometimes that spark is your nervous system recognizing a pattern that it already knows. The body doesn't always respond to what's good, it responds to what's familiar. So if you grew up with that inconsistency emotionally, your nervous system may have learned love equals anxiety. Love equals performing. Love equals waiting. Love equals fixing. Love equals working. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted even thinking of all of those things. That is a lot of responsibility for one person to carry. So then when someone comes along who is emotionally consistent, they're kind, they're clear, they're stable, they're intentional. Your nervous system doesn't say, "Ooh, finally safety." It says this is weird. You think they're weird. You become suspicious and you interpret it as wrong. And this is why sometimes high functioning women say, he's a good man, but I'm not feeling, or like, something's missing. Like, I don't know what it is. It's boring. This is stable. And really, what it is that he's not activating your survival pattern. And I'm not saying that every calm relationship is automatically a match. I'm not saying that at all, okay? Healing often requires that you develop a new definition of what love feels like in your body. Because if love has always felt like a roller coaster, peace is going to be complete boredom and snooze fest at first, okay? And not because peace is boring, but because your nervous system is recalibrating. And that recalibration is part of growth. Now, we're going to shift and talk about faith a little bit because this is where a lot of people get trapped. And I'm going to say this with care because I'm not here to take away anybody's hope, but I am here to protect your discernment. Some high functioning women stay in emotionally unhealthy relationships because they confuse long suffering with loyalty. They confuse patience with tolerance. They confuse grace with self abandonment. And I know because I lived here before, but I don't live there anymore. And you might even think if I pray harder, he'll change. If I love better, he'll see my value. If I stay consistent, it'll inspire him, it'll motivate him. If I wait long enough, God will reward me. But faith is not denial. Faith is not ignoring patterns. It's not calling dysfunction a season. And faith does not require you to betray yourself. Discernment is spiritual. Paying attention is spiritual. Honoring your nervous system is spiritual. And a relationship that requires you to shrink your needs to keep someone is not love, it's survival. Let me say this plainly: God does not need you to be emotionally unsafe to prove you're loving. And I want to speak to the woman who keeps saying, I just want to give him grace. Grace is beautiful, but grace without boundaries can become self sabotage, self erasure, and self destruction. And a lot of high functioning women are really, really good at being compassionate, but they're not always good at being honest about what something is truly costing them. All right, beautiful people. If this episode has already blessed you in any sort of way, we ask that you like, subscribe, follow, share, and leave comments. Feedback helps this message reach the people who need it most. And if you're listening and thinking, I'm ready to go deeper in my healing journey, we invite you to join our school community where we continue these conversations between episodes. And it's an opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals committed to growth, healing, and purpose. Also, do not forget, you can shop the merch and also explore all things Evolve at evolvewithdrjnicole.com. If you love today's look and you're wondering about this hair, you can use my promo code with the link in the description to get 15% off with Eunice hair. That's UNICE. Thank you for rising with us. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. So let's make this practical. If you're constantly anxious, overthinking, wondering where you stand, waiting for clarity, chasing communication, or even carrying the emotional load of the relationship, that is not peace. Okay, so we got to talk about standards. And a lot of high functioning women have standards everywhere except where they want love. At work, Well, you're not accepting any unclear expectations. There's no inconsistent communication. There definitely is not disrespect. You're not accepting broken systems or missed deadlines without accountability. However, when we get over to dating, you start negotiating. And negotiating is good sometimes, but not when we are negotiating our needs. Then you're starting to explain yourself. You're exhausted trying to make it make sense. You start accepting bare minimum because you see potential. You start rewriting reality because you don't want to start over. And I want you to hear me. Potential is not a relationship. Consistency is. And if you're dating someone's potential, you're dating a fantasy. And fantasies can keep you stuck because they always feel possible. And if we're being honest, a lot of us are addicted to fantasy. High functioning women often stay too long because they believe effort can change the outcome. And that's true in school, it's true in your career, it's true in business. But love is not earned by performance. You cannot work someone into emotional availability. And when you raise your standards, you'll often find that you'll feel lonely before you start to feel free because your nervous system is used to being occupied and your heart is used to being in a cycle, and your identity may be used to being the one who holds everything together. So when you stop doing that, it feels empty. But this emptiness that you're feeling, it's not failure, it's space, it's opportunity. This is where your life upgrades. Now, here's a question I want you to answer in the comments. Have your standards changed in the last year? And if so, what is the biggest thing you no longer tolerate? That question alone can help you reflect on your own evolution. Now, let's move into what you can actually do because insight without action is only entertainment, right? And we're not here just to be entertained. We are here to evolve. Number one, slow down attraction. If you're high functioning, you're probably used to fast results, right? But emotional safety cannot be rushed. Now, chemistry, oh, that's real fast, right? Like you can feel that instantly. But character, that is revealed over time. So I invite you to slow down, to not rush intimacy, to not rush commitment, and definitely not to rush access to your heart. Let consistency earn closeness, okay? Number two, y'all know I love data, okay? In relationships anyway. Observe patterns, not the promises, okay? A lot of emotionally unavailable people are very good with words. And when they feel you pulling away, they're going to turn it up a notch. But love is not proven in what someone says during conflict, it's proven in what they do repeatedly. So I want you to pay attention to follow through, accountability, emotional responsiveness, reliability, and repair. Those things are going to be essential for you to have a full and accurate picture of who it is that you're dealing with. All right, number three, we're going to stop auditioning for love. This is huge because if you are constantly trying to be the right version of yourself so someone will choose you, you're not in a relationship, baby. You are in a performance and you deserve to be chosen while you are at rest, not only while you are achieving. Number four, we want to build internal safety. I want you to ask yourself, what does safety feel like in my body? For some women, safety feels like calm, predictability. It feels like peace, not needing to over explain, no need to chase. But because that's unfamiliar, they confuse it with the lack of a spark. So your work is to learn. Peace is allowed to be attractive. Consistency is allowed to be desirable. Stable love is allowed to feel good. Number 5, strengthen spiritual attachment. If you're a woman of faith, you have to ask, am I attached to God or am I attached to God or am I attached to outcomes? Because when you're attached to outcomes, you will tolerate what violates you in the name of promise. But when you're securely attached to God, you don't have to force what's not aligned. You can release with peace, you can walk away with clarity, and you can choose yourself without guilt. Let me close like this. If you're a high functioning woman and you've been blaming yourself for what you've tolerated, I want you to take a breath. Not because you're crazy, not because you're weak, not because you're too much. And you are not the problem because you love deeply. But you may be healing a nervous system that learned to survive. You may be healing attachment patterns that were formed before you had the language for them. You may be healing the part of you that confused endurance with love. And healing doesn't mean that you become cold. Healing means you become clear. Healing means you stop negotiating your needs. Healing means you stop proving your worth. Healing means you choose environments and partners that match your growth. And if you're listening to this and you know it's time for you to evolve your patterns, let this be your reminder. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to require more. You are allowed to leave what costs you your peace. As we approach the 1-year anniversary of Rise and Thrive, we're closing out this season with conversations that help you reflect, reset, and rise. And if this episode spoke to you, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and drop your answer in the comments. What is one pattern you're breaking this year? I'm Dr. J. Nicole, and I'll see you in the next episode. And if you want to carry the message of this show into your everyday life, I invite you to explore the Rise and Thrive collection. It includes mugs, apparel, and other pieces that are designed to remind you to walk boldly in purpose. You can find them at www.evolvewithdrjnicole.com and share this episode with someone who might need encouragement today. Thank you for being part of the Rise and Thrive community. And until next time, keep rising in faith and keep thriving in purpose.